A Delaware officer has been arrested for overdosing on heroin at a school's juvenile lockup. Can you believe it? What's up, all my fellow lunatics out there? You heard it correctly. It's not clickbait. It's true. It's blue. It's official corruption news, and we got another juicy story coming to you right now. Before we get started, though, if you don't know me, get to know me. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. As always, if the video goes past 10 minutes and you're on TikTok, jump over to YouTube where you can catch the full video, always there. And with that being said, let's get into this juicy little tidbit, shall we? This report is coming from Delaware Online News. Officer indicted after alleged overdose at Delaware's Ferris School juvenile lockup. An officer at Delaware's juvenile lockup near Wilmington has been charged with official misconduct after police accuse him of overdosing on heroin while manning the control center at the facility. A Newcastle County grand jury recently indicted the officer on misdemeanor official misconduct, as well as 11 misdemeanor counts of endangering the welfare of children at the facility. Court documents indicate the officer disclosed to medical personnel at the time that he had recently relapsed into heroin use. Ferris School, located on Center Road outside of Wilmington, is part of the state's largest campus to incarcerated youth. It houses boys aged 13 to 18 years old. Arrest documents indicate that the investigation began in late August when Tanya Banks, the school's superintendent, contacted Delaware State Police to report allegations that multiple employees had been smuggling drugs into the facility to sell to juveniles. During that conversation, Banks told the investigator that an officer had overdosed 3 days before her contacting the police. She said that officer had been named as one of those suspected of smuggling the contraband. So what, he was smuggling drugs to these kids into the juvenile center and just, relapsed because he couldn't, you can't deal drugs as an addict and not dip into your own supply. So he decided to relapse and started getting high while at work. A spokesperson for the state Department of Services for Children, Youth, and their families, the entity that manages Ferris, declined to comment on whether the officer is still employed or what interventions may have came from the drug running report. Wait. So they're not commenting on whether he's employed or not? That doesn't look good. I mean, shouldn't they just comment fired? Any company you get caught doing like hard drugs working for any company, you're fired. There is no reprimand and rehabilitation, especially if you're a cop. At least there shouldn't be. That's just my opinion, though. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. The officer was not charged with any crime related to dealing drugs, and instead his charges relate specifically to the alleged overdose. Jesus. Arrest documents state that the officer was found unconscious on the floor of the school's central control room, which Banks told officers was the, quote, most critical position, unquote, in the facility, with responsibilities that include monitoring surveillance cameras, communicating with staff, emergency notification, and control over all doors. Which that is a pretty big deal, especially in a juvenile facility, because as we all know, many juvenile facilities are much worse than prison because you got a lot of unhinged teenagers with overflowing hormones that are just ready to, you know, do one of the two big F's, effing or fighting. And since they don't have a lot of the opposite gender in those places, there's a lot more fighting that goes on. That officer should really be on his toes to be watching those cameras to make sure no one's being harmed and everybody's safe, and he can unlock doors for other officers if there is an altercation. So to be overdosing on heroin, I mean, I don't know. That's insane. The officer regained consciousness after the paramedics administered Narcan. His girlfriend, also an employee at the school, told paramedics that he had a history of heroin use, according to arrest documents. Hold on. According to arrest documents. So are they just saying that her statements on the new arrest documents, or that he actually has a history of heroin use according to prior arrest documents? Because how could you get a job as an officer if you have a history of narcotic use? See, I was thinking maybe he just hit it very well, didn't get busted at all, flew under the radar, got clean, got a job, and then had a relapse. But if this dude actually has priors and then got a job as a cop, Jesus Christ, I hope that's not the case. That can't be right. No, I'm just speculating. That can't be right. I've got to be reaching right there, I guess. But that just the way that was written was a little weird. The officer was hospitalized, denied using drugs or bringing them into the school, and told officials that he suffered a diabetic episode. Well, then your girlfriend gave you away, bubba. Banks told officers medical records subpoenaed by investigators showed that the officer was treated for a drug overdose, not a diabetic episode. Additionally, the officer admitted to medical staff that he recently had relapsed on heroin and accidentally overdosed. The investigator wrote in court documents that the officer also told paramedics that he, quote, snorted a substance, unquote, prior to the overdose, which comported with his, quote, strange and unusual behavior investigators saw on surveillance footage showing him prior to the overdose. Court documents indicate there were 15 people locked up at the facility at the time, and that 11 were legally juveniles. And so the officer is also charged with endangering their welfare in addition to official misconduct. The arrest is the first law enforcement incident to become public in recent years at Ferris School and the Newcastle County Detention Center, a lockup for juveniles awaiting court dates located on the same campus as Ferris. Instances of fighting, injured officers, and property damage have been reported at the facility in each of 2019, 2020, and 2021. 2021, significant damage at Ferris School during Saturday incident. The officer's alleged overdose follows two high-profile instances of law enforcement officials overdosing on the job. So this is Jesus Christ. So there was two other overdose incidents. In 2022, a Dover officer pleaded guilty to charges associated with allegations that he overdosed in his patrol car. He agreed to undergo treatment and forfeit his ability to work in law enforcement. Last year, a Millsboro police sergeant pleaded guilty to crimes associated with tampering with and using drugs stored in his department's evidence locker. We did a story on that. He also overdosed in a police vehicle, lost his job, and was sentenced to drug treatment. I mean, and there you have it. Seems like cops are just overdosing left and right all over the country. I mean, technically it's only 3 cases, but that's still 3 too many in my book. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a civilian like y'all. Anyhow, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for being here. From the bottom of my heart, I love each and every one of you. I hope y'all are having a glorious day. And until the next time, as always, stay wild.